My name is Jolie Russell. I'm an artist and I live on the Cocos Islands. I have been so entranced by the mountains of human waste in some of the most remote coastlines around Australia that I let it take over a big chunk of my life, and I built a tiny art studio dedicated to where our ocean meets consumerism and our own blindness. My art actually is not doom and gloom, but I have been there. When you see that we are connected to it all and that the oceans support us and we should be caretakers of the entire planet, and obviously we're not doing that, it's easy to fall into despair. But that's not a sustainable feeling that you can carry around forever. It's just too heavy. It's too heavy, and unless it stirs something in you, it doesn't help. So I make things out of it all, and I found joy is much lighter. I make baskets, but it isn't really about the basket. It's about taking something ugly and allowing it to be beautiful. It's about bearing witness to how the systems we're so comfy in affect our world. It's about making things with my hands and connecting with other people and putting something that no one wants to look at into the spotlight. This space is my tiny art studio and the place I bring back all of my fishing nets. It's a work of art in itself, and it started from very humble beginnings. This is the story of how a rusty old trailer I was gifted by my mate Happy Jack was transformed into the most beautiful tiny art studio on wheels in the Indian Ocean, and all of the people that came together to make it tangible. Step one was to find a trailer, draw up some plans and get some help. The build took about a year. Every weekend of that year I knocked on my friend Graham's door, had a cup of tea with him and waited for him to brush his teeth. Then we drove to the worksite. This project wouldn't have happened without him. When it came to drawing up the plans, I wanted beautiful and Graham wanted practical, and we met somewhere in the middle. It was important to me to reclaim as much as possible. I scavenged around at the tip where I found windows and offcuts of wood. I was given an old bed that we cut down into long planks, collected driftwood off the beach, and was given leftover flooring from a construction job on the island. Almost every piece I can tell you a story about. 3.5 meters long, and I'd say 1.5 meters this way. Yep. Yeah, it's not very big. We wrote a list of what we couldn't find and ordered it in from the mainland Australia. It took 3.5 months to get here by ship. In the meantime, we cut off as much of the rust as we could and grinded it all back to the bare frame, which is in surprisingly good nick, and then covered it with tar. When the materials we did order finally arrived, I used a layer of tar as glue to stick down the cement sheeting floor. To build the curved roof, we started by making wooden arches. I built most of these with my friend Solly. So now I have made 3 of the roof arches. I've got them here stacked on top of each other, so 1, 2, 3. So I just get these really thin pieces here and glue 5 of them together, put them in the brace, and then let them set for a day. Can you pull that bit off? Solly and I are painting glue on the final arch. So this is number 5, and these are going to go in the roof. Good job, Sol, man. Yep. I reckon there's probably millions of eggs there. The framework went up on an angle outwards to maximise the tiny floor space. So the wall frames are up, and today is Graham's birthday. I think he is 76. And I put one wonky screw in, so I've been banished to just painting for the day. And yeah, we're gonna paint it here. This part's gonna be the porch, and then here where that clamp is, that's where the door will be. After the timber frame was up and painted and the wooden arches were finished and installed, we got to work putting the first layer of the ceiling. These thin bits of ply we'd found laying around, and they were really delicate. We had to get them to fit like puzzle pieces. On top of those went cement sheets that were thin enough to bend over the arches without cracking. Where the sheets met, I covered the gap with the same thin planks the arches were made out of, and then painted over everything. Rain came before I had the chance to seal everything. Water came through, and once it dried, I went back and mixed a 2-part filler and put that over every join and all along the outside edge of the roof. Here I'm filing down sections all along the roof so that the water has somewhere to escape and doesn't pool. My friend Georgie here is oiling the wall panels. These are tongue and groove and just slot in on top of each other. Graham made frames for the windows that I found at the tip. These were the next to go up.
Come a little bit closer.
To protect it, we varnished it. This is layer 1 of many. Now I'm using the same filler that went onto the roof into the cracks of the cement sheet floor, so the vinyl flooring scraps we were given can go down smoothly. Now it's time to work on the cupboards. Pete helped me with these. The panelling of this cupboard is made from biscuiting together planks from an old bed, and the framing is made from driftwood off the beach. This part was so exciting. I got this stained glass window specially made by an artist that goes by Ivy Glass Cottage. A carpenter friend of mine framed it, and another friend of mine that was travelling up to the islands brought it up. It feels like the heart of this space and paints gold and blue light across the walls. This bit of driftwood here I found on an island called Horsburgh, and it inspired an entire cupboard made of driftwood. We put them all down like a puzzle and then glued them onto ply. We cut out the individual drawer fronts with a jigsaw and screwed them onto a set of drawers. The first piece already had a handle when I found it on the beach, and for the rest I used mix and match handles from all over the place. Even with the windows I found at the tip and the stained glass, the space was still looking a bit dark. This window was made on Home Island a long time ago. I got it by doing a trade with one of my ocean rope baskets. Now it's time for the door. It's a split barn door with a shelf on the bottom for a cup of tea and a porthole in the top half from a sailboat that sailed to the islands years ago. Graham gave me the porthole and my friend Paul built the door out of an old bed and our leftover panelling from the walls. Window stoppers went up to keep the windows closed. Because the walls are built on an angle, without them they didn't shut.
From here it was time to prep for the cupboards to go in. I put a thin plank down to raise the cupboards slightly off the floor, just in case the driftwood drawers were heavy, to stop them from scraping on the ground. I secured all the cupboards together and down into the floor.
And then they were in. We used wood from that old bed again to make the couch on top of the cupboard, and then started making the long workbench. So I intended to video every single part of the build process, but somewhere along the lines I got caught up in actually just building it. This is what it looks like now. We've got the cupboards at the end and the light is in, or the window, and it's unfinished but it's pretty close. For the workbench down the side, I found 2 long bits of wood that used to be the stairs of Government House. They'd been thrown out at the tip. We found them, chucked them through the thicknesser to get the paint off, biscuited them together, filled in any gaps, and then burnished them down. It was the exact perfect length. After what felt like forever, it was time to move the trailer into its new home. It's so cool. Yeah, looks good. My friend set up a little solar panel, and I'm always adding on different bits I find. It still isn't quite finished, but I think when you build a space, you never really stop working on it. I'm so lucky to have been helped by so many people, and very much in love with my little tiny art studio on wheels. So cheers to that.